Good morning, everyone. It's Morning Oasis. It's Jessie, Michelle,
Hi,
and Mariah.
hello.
We're so excited to be here with you guys today. Let's see. So it's Friday, the 25th, 26th, 27th, because I know what day it is. You guys are used to that anyway. So we have come together today because there's so many messages we have to share with you guys. And these are some powerhouses that I absolutely love and adore. And we have decided to join to be able to speak to you guys about what we have observed as the greatest conflict that we're facing right now as a people. And that is how to stop being in conflict with each other. How do we step out of that space of looking at the other person as outside of them and someone they have to protect themselves with, from, and to fight against? Or is it somebody that I identify with and will fight with me? This is the conflict that is being released from us as a people. And we are creating the perfect opportunity for that to happen by our political, our social, our economic, our spiritual environment that we're in right now. So it all came into alignment to have these ladies join me. First, I asked Mariah to come and join me today. And Michelle is her sister, and she messaged me last night and said, hey, I'm going to be in town for just a little bit. And right after we're done here, she flies off and away. She has to go to the airport. The only amount of time that she had is this Oasis time. So if ever there was doubt, that source is aligning us to come into this one space, to do this one work together, to be a unified being, coming and showing up for you, for me, for each other. This is one of those confirmations. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you for holding this open space for us, a sacred space for us to be together and to triangulate our lights and what we're trying, the messages we're trying to get out to the masses and the people, and just to be a witness to seeing people like you guys overcome conflict that's so close to you is just such a great opportunity to know that it's happening, it's flowing through us, we're shedding that need to feel separate, we are identifying as one another. It's easy for me to look at somebody in the eyes and say, I love you, and they can say they love me too, and I know that's just a shell of a person, and inside we're the same, yet we have all these amazing different experiences that brought us together on different paths, our different lessons, and they are unique, and they're amazing stories if we sit down and listen to each other's stories. But inside, we're all love, we all have red blood as far as I know. I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure it's red, and we are light. And these sisters here today are amazing light workers of love and honesty and truth and beauty, and they're creators. These are goddess creators in my mind. Not to deify you guys in any light, but I love working with both of you, and I love being able to check into your show at 10 o'clock every day, and I know it's there. And it's for me. So as long as this technology holds together, we can hold together in this unity in this place. But knowing that if it does fail, we will have a way to connect.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes, we will.
They have their selenite phones. We were playing around with them earlier.
Always. Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Jessie. It's truly a pleasure. Always is. And yeah, for providing a space so that we have a place to discuss these very important matters that we're at right now, and have been for many thousands of years, to be honest about it. And you know, we're in a space now where we're looking at that once again, but in a different way, in the way that we are here in 2017. So all of us unifying and finding a way to unify in a current timeline, in this timeline, is a new challenge.
It is. It's really challenging. And it's so challenging right now because our instinct is to protect each other, to create space for each other, to love each other. And when we see other people not loving each other, or taking away space from others, or taking away things from others, when we see that happening, our instinct is to go and to fight and protect the ones that are being taken from, that are not capable of protecting themselves. But what we first must remember is, where are we in our center? Where are we at as we are stepping into that role of protector, of warrior, of fighter? Because if we are coming from a place of resistance, of resentment, of anger, of fear, of lack, of loss, if that is the place from which we stand to fight, then we are not coming into unity. We're stepping further away from unity, further reinforcing the system that's been in place for the longest time since we understood what we were here doing. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is how can we as a people come and speak together from a platform of whole oneness. We use the term love a lot, and I think that for some people it feels empty because they haven't actually felt loved. There's so many of us that don't feel in our lives like we have been loved by the people around us. Maybe it was our parents, maybe it was our partners, maybe it was our friends. But that love lack that we're holding is a vibrational frequency only. And it's designed so that we can connect with others who have a love lack vibrational frequency, so that we can see the truth that we love them. Because I see another person that has that lack love frequency and I want to fill it with love. That's what the balance comes from. The love is the high vibration. The lack is the low vibration. And to come into the balanced state is the goal. When we come into alignment with the creator consciousness, with that infinite creation, not even an individual creator, but the creation, when we come in alignment with that consciousness, it's not even that we feel the high love or the low lack. We just feel balance, alignment, presence. So when you're feeling like you have to resonate that high love frequency, recognize what you're doing. You're bringing balance to the lack frequency. And if we meet that lack with anger and resentment, there's no balance. It just goes lower and lower, coming further out of alignment with that one infinite creative consciousness that we all align to. And I love how you said, recognizing the goddess in us and recognizing not to deify that, not to worship, not to follow mindlessly, not to step into a space of speaking what you've heard in order to fit within the group you identify with. It's critical that we are not speaking purely to identify. I'm going to also let you guys know, because there's 3 of us, so we can all fit in the screen, we have put the camera and the device way the bleep over there. So I know you guys are talking to us, and I'm going to let them talk for a minute while I log in here so I can see what you're saying and we can respond back, because I do believe that's one of the most important parts of this whole process. So go ahead.
Well, it's like what you were saying earlier about finding that middle way. There's this neutral place where we are coming from as we view the changes that are happening. Do we fight back really hard? Do we love? Obviously we're sending an increased vibration out there, and to hold a new residence in our system that we have in this reality. But at the same time, it is important to remember to find this middle way where we are not only working on changing our system, but also working on just embodying the change that we want to have, and finding this kind of middle route where you're like, here's the bad, here's the good, and then like doing away with that entire duality and saying, here's us living and being exactly that change. Talking about that neutrality earlier.
Coming back into resonance with that whole state. When you're completely present in a moment, when you've dropped into that moment completely, you are not thinking about what that person did yesterday, and you're not thinking about what they will do tomorrow. You're not concerned with those things. You're showing up present in this moment. And the hard part about that for most of us to accept is, but then we're being in ignorance. We're ignoring the truth. We're ignoring what's happening. We're not standing up and speaking out. We're allowing through acquiescence. That's a hard one for us to get over, because it requires that we understand that you are me and I am you. And if I reside fully only as this individual that is not a part of the whole, then I'm in a fighting role and I have to defend myself. There's something that just came through and it cut off that thought.
Let's hear it.
What was it? It was interesting. Okay, so one of the things that's been happening for me lately is, since I've been connecting more and more with the law of one, the raw consciousness, my filter has been clearing, and I've been understanding that the messages that have been guiding me through my entire life is this raw consciousness. And I think that many of you who have found my work, have found what I'm doing, have found either of these two beautiful women, then you also are being guided by this raw consciousness, right? Because we don't know why we come together. We just know when we meet each other, whoo, this resonant frequency flows right through us.
Yeah.
This frequency flowing through us reinforces the knowledge. Yeah. I remember when I first met Mariah.
Oh my gosh. What a magical day that was.
We were on a field trip for our children. We were both parent volunteers, and our kids were in the same class. And I remember we're walking along.
Yeah.
And
School bus.
I think I asked you, well, what do you do? Who are you? What are you about? And she said, I'm going to school. What did you say?
I was like, I do work. I do medicine work. And then we were on the bus and you were like, whew, these kids are lucky to have two big
powerful
healing presence
women
is in here. And
the whole trip was really about managing the energy of the children.
And we were playing with them, and we were like building spheres and like casting them over the kids. We were out in the woods.
Yes, in the woods.
We took them out to the watershed and
Johnson Creek watershed.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we were like, hee. You want to do like a violet orb and then like shoot it over there? That was so cool.
So that's the way to connect with each other, is in play. Yeah. When you find yourself, we were in this place. These kids, they didn't want to be there. None of them wanted to be there.
They were in 8th grade. Who wants to be there?
They were all like, fighting a little bit, or trying to find ways to not do the assignment, or how do I get over here, or kicking water at each other. And at points, Mariah and I would come together. But then there were points where we were like, oh, we need to be separate. These separate beacons, and doing this work from these different angles. We aren't going and yelling at the kids to say, hey, what are you doing? You should be focusing on your homework. How dare you interrupt that other person's lesson? Because that's going to get a kid that says, F you. Further reinforcing the conflict. Further reinforcing the separation between me and them. Further reinforcing the way they feel. That I'm invalidating their feelings, their needs, their excitement, their pleasure, their joy. I'm just an obstacle to them and what they want. That's it. When I put myself in a role of adversary, when I put myself in a role of authority, when I put myself in a role of validation and justification, That's what happens. I separate myself from them, and they can't receive me anymore. But instead, what did we do? We transmuted the energy.
Transmuted it.
We played around with the frequency. There was one boy who was there, and it broke my heart because I could see him wanting to connect with all the other students, and he didn't know how. He'd go up to them and he'd make fun of them, and he'd tease them, and he'd say mean things to them, and then they'd start saying really mean things back to him, and he'd fight. And then he'd come back, and I went over to him and I said, "Hey, what's going on? What's happening here?" And he said, "They don't like me. They don't like me, and they're mean to me." And I said, "Okay, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. I really like to hear what you're interested about right now." And I didn't talk to him about his behavior. I didn't talk to him about how mean he started it. I didn't tell him that he was the one that was creating that in the first place, obviously. Because he went up and picked a fight. Instead, I focused on what was positive. And one of the things that he got really angry about was how they were attacking his mother. And I kind of thought Yo Mama jokes ended in the 80s and 90s, but apparently they could still
The
come up.
rebirth.
A lot of things are alive and well in Portland.
Oh my God.
1984. Bringing it back.
So, I told him I focused on how I wished my son felt that much love for me. He does, but I focused on his love of his mother and asked him to bring that up even more, and started focusing on things I loved and telling him about all the things that I loved. And within a short time, he was like, I think I'm going to go and do something else. And I said, "Okay, that's fine." And he got up and he left. And the whole rest of the day, he was playing and hanging out with two boys that he does like. One of them was my son. And afterward, my son asked me about it. He said, "How come that boy came over and was playing with us?" And I said, I talked to him a little bit about how you feel like you're isolated and alone at times, and how you feel like you're a bit different. And he wanted to connect with you because he felt like you would understand him. So he went and joined somebody who he knew could understand at least where he was coming from. And they became friends. And that boy, no, he didn't become perfect. He didn't stop struggling. He didn't stop having fights with people. But he found a friend, a connection, by being talked to about his love, about my love. So when you find yourself in this conflict with somebody, if your response is to challenge their beliefs, to challenge their viewpoint, to challenge where they're coming from, you have already lost the battle. You're already out. You have cut yourself off from them. That's the hardest thing for us to understand, because we want to protect ourselves from negativity, from anger, from fear, from violence, from death. And that's something we talked about earlier too.
I was actually thinking about the death thing. I think that it's coming up for today.
Yes. I loved what you said about death.
I've been having some really strong feelings about death, kind of through my own shamanic death walk, and what do I need to do to get myself ready, prepared for what's coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a smart little squirrel and being prepared. And then yet being a good light worker and staying in the moment. So channeling what that might mean to me is fear. And we've talked about fear of intimacy, fear of being seen, fear of being heard. What that might mean to me.
Double.
But mostly, I see fear of death as the biggest bond over us, the biggest thing that keeps us imprisoned in this system that we currently have and that we're living in. And I personally I don't know how to overcome this fear of death. I'm personally trying to walk away from that fear every day because I haven't experienced it. What I'm seeing is that we're going to experience a lot of it, and it's really hard for me to say that, but I feel like We're going to see it, we're going to bear witness to it, and it's going to hurt. But until we understand what death means, and until we walk on this earth knowing what the circle of life is for and the purpose, our medicine won't do us any good, the medicine we hold inside, without accepting death as part of our life process. And I love the fact that I get to be with these women here, because death is something I haven't had to deal with hardly at all in my life. And I've put up these big, huge walls so that I don't have to, because I've always believed God will only give me as much as I can handle. And I've said, I can't handle death. I can't do it. So this is a really big one for me, that fear of death and what's going to happen. And for my children, my children are like, I don't want you to grow old, because then you're going to be gone, right? When they're little, they say that. And I'm like,
we've passed it on. We've passed
it on.
on.
We passed it on. Our soldiers go to war, and what do? We sit around and we wait to see who's dead next. We wait to see. We look in the news every day. Who died? We read obituaries. Who died? We make big tombstones. We have this fear of this celebration of life. Now, how do we, if we've had a conflict in a relationship, now how do we deal with that passing of that person? Oh, so many opportunities to let go of that, and so many opportunities to say, this is part of our life. We will all expire these bodies eventually. Our lifetime right now is maybe around 80, 90 years. I mean, it wasn't too long ago people were living 900 years, but our bodies are kind of in this.
We're actually seeing
frequency.
people are now living to their hundreds and 110, 115. I think the oldest woman right now is in Japan, and I believe, if I remember correctly, she's 114 or 118. I can't remember. I'm horrible with numbers.
Yeah. So could you imagine using the law of attraction and how much we worry about death, and how much death that actually brings to us sooner?
Mm-hmm. Two things. One of the most freest little beings that I know, my little girl, Itzel, will, I watch her move through the death concept like air. Like, she's so quick with it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a pet or a person or, me. We've, talked about that. She brings it up and is like, yeah, you'll die someday. It's okay. You're going to go back into the earth, and then, you have this whole cycle. She's completely okay with the concept, which shows, she's obviously embodied in a really interesting time on this planet. Mm-hmm. And she is carrying a frequency that is much different than the beliefs we have held for a long time, and we see a lot of kids like that right now.
Oh my God, that girl is...
They have a huge head start on us.
Yes, they do.
And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was how, when we were discussing this earlier before the show, Jessie had mentioned that